Yeah. What we attempt to do, or what we aim to do every month, is to be able to hold those type of meetings when it comes to networking, but also infiltrate a workshop wherein you'll be able to learn a little bit more as far as particular industry, particular field, and gain some information, that some tools that you could get back to and utilize in your business, and hence grow your business that way. So this month, as a final workshop for the year 2019, we are highlighting one of our own, Mr. Welby Waron, and his background is over 15 years in public accounting, data analytics, financial software, education, aviation consultancy, with a variety of services to further your goals and help you establish a foundation for your financial success. The company that he founded and also manages is called BG Financials. They are there empower individuals such as yourself and your business to do more. So tonight you get a snippet of what it is that they offer. Wellbe is a great community leader and a wealth of knowledge. Don't take my word for it, as you hear him, and you'll be able to also share, get his business card tonight, and take some time to just reach out to their company and understand what it is that they can help you do. I hope you take something back tonight, but again, it's my pleasure to introduce this fine young man. And his wife is also another business partner and correlate with the business. She's here as well. So we want to introduce Welby Boiron with you tonight. Hope I did you justice.
Yes, you did. Well, thank you, Marlene. Marlene is actually great. She has the zeal of every advisor and director that we need on the board. So first, I know Marlene talk a little bit about me and what we do as a company. So let me kind of add a little bit to that in terms of who I am and what we aim to do in the community. I've had the opportunity and the pleasure to work for various companies in various industries. My experience range from financial accounting. I work in public accounting for over 10 years in New York. When I moved here, I decided to become a consultant for financial software development, really applying the skill set that I've acquired in public accounting. After that, I switched to education, worked with establishing a huge ERP system for an educational company that builds software for counties and public schools. So there were a lot of accounting systems that needed to be built, and they needed my expertise. So I did that for a couple of years and switched to aviation. With aviation, the company I consult with currently is a multi-billion-dollar company. To be exact, $6 billion company. They've acquired quite a few companies about 5 to 6 years ago, and they wanted someone with great accounting concepts and someone who also knows data analytics, who can really work on integrating the data that they merge with the new company. So I started my work there. As I started my work with BBA Aviation, and now currently called Signature Aviation, I've worked in various capacities, whether it's business process architecture. As you know, when you acquire a company for multi-billion dollars, you need to integrate not only systems, but you also need to integrate structure, business process. You need to change resources. You need to have all the required processes and tools in place to really integrate. And I was that guy. And through that process, I had a chance to travel across the world, meeting different people, learning different concepts and different ideas. So let's talk about my company now. Boys Loans Group has been around for a while. Since I was in college, I started doing taxation for both businesses and individuals. But I never took it seriously, because what I've seen over the years is the concept of taxation has been a process that's been muddied by so many people. Taxes no longer required people to have skill set or education to do that. So over the years, I shied myself from really pursuing this business and really helping my community. I seek to go elsewhere, working for large companies and enterprises instead of helping my own. So about 3 or 4 years ago, my wife, Rose, she decided to push me to the point of no return and she said that we need to really take this company seriously. People are making money. You have a lot of skill set. You can really help the community and businesses. But I've thought that my skills were too elevated to really help people because I work with the enterprises, not the small businesses necessarily. So over the years, I've crafted, refined, and really talked to people, small businesses, mid-sized businesses, and enterprises alike to see how I can help them. And this is the reason why today we have BG Financials. BG Financial is more than taxes. BG Financials offers you an ecosystem of services and products, whether it's business formation, accounting, business analytics, whether it's a business process architecture. So many small businesses don't understand because they have little funds. They do not have the luxury of not streamlining their processes. That is quite important. When it comes to business process architecture, it's no longer about the enterprises, it's about the small businesses as well because funds are limited. So tonight, I was thinking when Dr. B told me that, well, you'll be performing at the end of the year, you'll talk about businesses and whatever. So I've thought of many different concepts. I could talk about taxation. I could talk about tax planning. But one of the things I know is that at the end of the year, people make wishes. I have made so many wishes over the years. By next year, I'm going to start my business. By next year, I'm going to lose weight. I don't have anything to lose, but by next year, I'm going to be better. But I know one thing for certain, studying the data, we know that most businesses start by the beginning of the year. And people always have aspirations to be better and improve their conditions. And this is the reason why I chose the topic tonight, the birth and implementation of a business idea. Through this process, we're going to run you through multiple steps on how to be successful in launching a very, very thriving and successful business. You're going to learn about the process of ideation. You're going to learn about self-evaluation. You're going to learn how to write a business plan. You're going to learn how to perform market research, choose your business structure, and so many things. So, let's talk about the birth of an idea. I have bad news for you tonight. So many of you think that when you create an idea, you have an idea, it's unique. It's never been done before. When it's proven that nothing you ever create, build, or design is ever new. According to James Webb Young, a prolific writer, he writes about the concept of ideas is as old as time. All ideas that you ever create and think has been thought and designed by somebody else. The only difference about the creation of idea is the concept that it's how you arrange these old elements that existed before time and before you, and how you create them into something new. That's the difference between ideas when people generate ideas. It's how you arrange all these old elements, all these old concepts, existing concepts, and turn them into something new, a new combination, a new life form. So I talk a lot about the enterprise, and I vow to bring some of the concept of the enterprise to you, to the small business. At the enterprise level, no idea is ever been generated or implemented before going through a rigorous process. And the process is called ideation. Ideation, really, in a nutshell, is simple. It's a process of hiring, for large enterprises, large companies, they hire a bunch of consultants, they sit in the room, they sit with the business stakeholders, these are the people who have a stake in the idea, and they sit around and talk for months. All their workshops and idea concept or iteration or ideation, it's based under one concept. It's called the design thinking. The first step when you generate a business idea, what you need to do, you need to empathize with the audience or the target audience that you're creating this idea for. So there is power in empathy when you're thinking about an idea. The power lies with the concept that if you empathize with your target audience, with your customer, you're going to create a product, an idea, a service that really helps them. So if I want to start a Haitian restaurant, I don't just want to start a Haitian restaurant. I want to start a Haitian restaurant that serves food on time, that provides a variety 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You come here, you ask for crabs, we got crabs. Pun intended. The second concept of the design thinking process is what they call a definition of your problem. So many times we fall in love with a business idea, we fail to really go through and iterate through the process and define it and see whether or not the problem you're trying to solve, if it really exists. And better yet, has someone else really filled those needs and provided a solution. The core thing about the design thinking process is ideation. This is the concept that as you go through these ideas, you generate more crazy ideas. It doesn't matter how crazy they are. You talk to your peers, you talk to your family. So many times we're so secretive about our business ideas, not knowing that we can benefit from sharing and collaborating with other people. And as you iterate, you ideate, you norm, you create a business idea that is sound. Then you're ready to build a prototype. A prototype doesn't have to be just a product that you really actually have. So for instance, if you want to start a restaurant business, you may want to become a homemade caterer. You cater to your customers by cooking the food at home, and you don't have to have all the appliances and all the comfort you need to build a full-fledged restaurant. And as you sell the food, you collect feedback from your customers to really understand whether or not they really like and enjoy the product that you're serving them. And once you do so, then you're ready for the full-fledged implementation of your vision and your idea. So, what happened when you fail to go through this process? The consequences are very dire. According to the SBA, about 50% of all small businesses will fail within the first year. 50%. So half of the room here will have an idea and they will fail. Another 95%, up to 95% actually, will fail within the next 5 years. That's a scary proposition, a scary outcome. So you need to plan. So let's think about this, right? We've generated ideas, we've iterated through it, we've ideated, and then now we're ready to ask the questions, the tough questions, the me questions, the questions that will really forces you to make decisions whether or not you want to proceed. And I call this process self-evaluation. So one of the key critical things to start a business, you have to be self-motivated. This is what differentiates an employee and a business owner or an entrepreneur. But better yet, one of the questions I really want to ponder on tonight is the concept of whether you are a small business owner or you are an entrepreneur. That's key. In the start, this difference will really determine the level of success in the amplification of your business ideas and how you implement them, right? So small business owners usually have a great idea. They want to start a restaurant. They want to hold their situation steady. And they only want to think about things they can manage daily to weekly, right? And they hold that business with so much sentimental value. I know when I lived in New York, there's a cafe that sell bread, Haitian bread, and they've been the same size since I've known them for over 30 years. Now, an entrepreneur, on the other hand, have big ideas. Let's think about Uber. I used to take cabs in New York, and I hated not knowing exactly when a cab will come in. But somebody had a big idea. What if we were to go against all the cabs and the TLC and then all these companies that provide services and provide a platform where the user can really estimate their time of arrival. They can see exactly where the driver is at. They know exactly how to plan their days. That's an entrepreneur mindset. And they love risks. If we take Uber again as an example, you'll find that Uber has been going through a lot of legal challenges. They just got sued recently. So they love risks. And an entrepreneur mindset doesn't think in terms of the daily and the weekly concept. They think ahead 6 months, a year, and so forth. And one of the things they really focus on is the concept of scaling. So I provided this matrix as a way to really draw the difference between a small business owner and entrepreneur. And there are a couple of key points that I'm going to touch based on. When you start a business, whether you're a small business entrepreneur or a small business owner, you need to understand the primary motivation. For a small business owner, their primary motivation is really to make a living. I just want to pay my bill, I just want to pay my mortgage. While an entrepreneur mindset usually wants to solve a larger problem, a big problem. The career objective of a small business owner is usually self-employment. I just want to get a check. While an entrepreneur wants to achieve financial freedom, they want people to work for them. They want top talent to work for them while they go out there, expand, create relationship, and build new ideas. Another strategy, when it comes to business strategy, the small business owner wants to create more sales. They don't care about the customer value. They don't care about the value of the product they're selling. I went to a Haitian restaurant. I had poor service. I went to the owner and talked to the owner, and he told me, I don't know what to do with them. I tell them all the time. They don't listen. I don't know. And I look at him, I said, this is your business, sir. What value are you providing to me besides the food? And he said, I don't know. And he turned around. Value. And we talk about the risk. One of the things that really differentiate a business owner and an entrepreneur is the concept that they don't just want to hire people to work for them. Because when you just hire people to work for you, you're hiring talents at lower market rate. And what happens is that you become a slave to the business to supervise these talents. An entrepreneur mindset really will pay for top talent, and they free themselves so they can go out there and really expand and build the business and build an enterprise. So there are a couple of other things you can see here, but we don't have time to talk about it. The second question in the self-evaluation process is, do I enjoy challenges? Having a business, starting a small business or an enterprise takes a lot of challenges. According to a recent survey by the Sba, these are some of the top challenges that businesses will face. Lack of capital, cash flow, marketing, advertising, time management, recruiting and retention of employee, administrative work, and so forth. So know whether or not you're ready to take on that challenge. Am I a problem solver? If you have a small business, what problem are you solving? And I'll tell you why it really is critical to have an innovative mindset in your business, whether you're a small business owner or an entrepreneur. About 82% of businesses surveyed by McKinsey. McKinsey is a data analytics firm, and I've worked with them a couple of times. And about 80% of customer surveys, business owners surveyed, they mentioned that about 72% of them failed or not really capture the greatest opportunities that were presented to them because they really did not think innovatively. They don't think innovatively. They follow the regular process that's been laid forth by their predecessors. And what this amounts to is that so many of them don't even think innovatively, but what they do, they don't learn from their past to really go ahead. You need to build on the failures of the past to really propel yourself and your business. Maybe one of the key points that a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs need to ask themselves is really understanding their strengths and weaknesses. There's a concept in business, and a lot of you probably study this, and also in marketing, called SWOT analysis. A SWOT analysis is a four-quadrant process that really attests or tests your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. As a business owner, you need to perform the SWOT analysis for yourself and your business, even for the top talents that you need to work into your business. So this is an example of a SWOT analysis performed by a small brewery. They sell beers. And one of the things they highlight as their strength is the fact that they have the capital stock. They have cash on hand. They also have the marketing knowledge in place, as well as the management team in place to really push the business. In addition to that, when it comes to their weaknesses, they know they do not have the technical capabilities in-house to really help their business. So that will be categorized as their weakness. And they also know that there are a lot of people, new people they need to train, and they do not have the capability or the capacity to train people accordingly in the beer brewing business. When it comes to opportunities, they know that one of the things leading right now, I don't know if a lot of you drink beers, but there's this new thing going on now where people just love a bottle of beer that's well packaged and in the labels and all this stuff. So it's a rage. So they know that's an opportunity for them, and they have that capability in-house. They also know that there is a craft beer niche. There's a niche for that market where people just want to enjoy good craft beer, not just the big companies' beers. When it comes to threats, they know they cannot compete with the major breweries. They know they cannot control prices for material and supplies. And they know that they do not have the capability like the big companies like Busch, so many other companies that craft beers to really go and market their company. So in a nutshell, you can see how this would be beneficial. So as you assess your weaknesses, you will need to allocate funding, as we'll see later on, to really bridge a gap when it comes to your weaknesses, right? You're going to hire maybe you need a top technical talent. Maybe you need people who can train in HR, who can train new hires, right? And when it comes to threats, maybe you need to spend more money on marketing so you can compete with these people. Or maybe you need to find a new distribution channel for your supplies and materials. The other concept is the last final point, which is key for yourself before you start a business. It's the concept of asking yourself, do I have the skill set to really run a business? Do I have the talent? There's no shame in that. I've asked myself. And these are some of the top talents, interests, and characteristics you need as a business leader. You need leadership. You need to be responsible for your employees. You need to have a teammate mentality. You need to produce quality products. You need to have courage. You need to be able to be responsible, have styles so you can differentiate yourself against your competitors. You need to establish trust for the people you really want to serve. So, we've talked about all these. We've generated ideas, we've ideated, we have asked the tough questions, and now we're ready, right? So you come to me and say, well, B, I'm ready. I've done all my homework. Now we're ready to start a business plan. The business plan literally is a roadmap on how you expect to operate your business and how you really intend to convey the characteristics of your business to investors, lenders, and so forth. So it's the blueprint that you're going to present to your investors, the blueprint you're going to present to your lenders, and the blueprint you're going to be presenting to your families if you need their supports for funding. So a sound business plan, a strong business plan, should be able to demonstrate that you have a sound business concept. You understand the market you intend to operate in. You will be operating in a very healthy, and you're going to see why this is important, a very healthy, growing, and stable industry, right? It's not a dying industry. You need to demonstrate that you have the talent to manage the business and the financial skills to manage the business, right? And the bottom line and the cash flow. Because you're in business for profit, not just for revenue generation. And we're going to learn the difference. and you have a very consistent business focus and mindset. So, in a nutshell, probably a lot of you have seen the makeup of a business plan. So there are quite a few templates out there. So I just wanted to provide you some of the key composition of a business plan. The elements range from having an executive summary where you outline the company's vision, the company's statement, mission statement, and so forth. You also talk a little bit about the leadership, why you're so different, your employees, the talents you have, and how you want to be operating in the location. And you also talk about the products and services you intend to provide to your lead customers. You will also perform market analysis, and I'm going to talk a lot about that, market analysis, which is the key area that you need to focus to understand the market you intend to operate in and the people you need to serve. In financial planning, which comprises of projection, because you don't know the business yet, you're just making projection, you're just making assumptions. So these assumptions, you can make very sound assumptions. What I find is that there is data out there, whether it's by the SBA and so many other entities where they provide you exactly businesses like yourself. This is your operating expenses. This is your operating costs. This is what you should expect. And it will tell you exactly what you should expect. And you should use that to really perform your financial planning and budgeting. So we understand what goes into a business plan. We're ready to start doing some homework. Remember when I started, I said the concept of ideation is continuous iteration and learning the market and the customers that you want to serve. So one of the biggest part of a business plan is really the market research and competitive analysis. I hate my voice, by the way. She knows that. I never listen to my voice. So before you really start, when you're starting the market research, one of the key areas that you need to spend a lot of time on is industry analysis. The industry analysis really is the concept of learning the industry you want to operate in. So for instance, this is some analysis I've done for a client of mine, prospect client of mine, where I show him exactly, these are the various industries that exist currently in Orlando, Florida. So I've taken the top ones. There are quite more. So you notice here, this segment here is your healthcare and social assistance. And the next one is retail trade and wholesale trade. So the green bar indicates revenue, the black one indicates number of establishments, number of businesses, and the red one indicates annual payroll. So you notice that when it comes to healthcare assistance, there's a huge growth here in Orlando, Florida. There's a huge need. As a matter of fact, that need is not only for Orlando, that need is for the state of Florida. We have a crisis, a mental health crisis. And you can see the data clearly shows us that. And you also see that when it comes to annual payroll, it's probably competitive with some of the other ones. So you don't need to pay employees a lot of money to really support your business. And when it comes to number of establishments, you have quite a few. So that may indicate that you probably need more to really saturate that market or to really fulfill the needs of the segment that you want to fill. The same goes with retail trade. You can see there's a huge growth, a lot of revenue, fewer establishments, and in low margin on payments, on payroll. So you've done your market analysis. You really want to know now, is there a desire for the product and services that you want to serve? You want to become a mental health counselor? I'm taking that example again. So this is an example of research I've done for a prospect client again, and that where they wanted to really know, well, I want to start my own practices. Is there a need? So what I've done, I use Google Analytics to really search to see people in this area, what are they looking for when it comes to health? So I type health. And when I type health, you can see that over the past 12 months, there's an increase of 200% in the research for the term mental health counselor. So there's a huge need here in Orlando, Florida. In addition to that, because I type health, so all the key terms related to health that people type, like job health, test health, salary health, you can see that mental health counselor has most of the terms returned. So people are looking for mental health counselors. So that proves that this idea that you have to start that new practice, it may be a sound idea. So there's a need for it, right? The other thing about market research is understanding what the population, the segment that you want to serve, where are they? Where do they reside? So this graph here, this map here shows you, for instance, I'm looking for Haitian population. So I found this website and this company that have done a lot of research on Haitian population migration. And you can see the bubbles indicates the size of the population, and the darkest it is, it also indicates how concentrated they are in a certain area. So you can see here that in Orlando, we have huge population, but here in Miami, you have huge population. So now I said, well, in my research for my idea, my healthcare counselor practice, I really want to add a new component to that. I look at the map, I'm like, crap, I could create this new concept where I bring care, I call it care mobile. I take a van and I go to the community and then I really consult with people and then help them with healthcare services and so forth. So now I know exactly where I need to go. I need to go to Orlando, I need to go around Boca, I need to go around West Palm. So you know. This also provide you the size of the market that you have at your disposal to play with. The last thing about market research is market saturation. So you want to start a restaurant, fine. Do you understand in the community that you want to operate in how many restaurants there are? What are their makeup, right? So you want to decide what kind of restaurants. So this graph indicates, it shows you the different types of restaurants. So there are 30, of all the restaurants in the community, there's about 37% that are family style restaurant, 31% are bars and grills, and 22% is about fine dining and so forth. The other side of that is really the makeup of those restaurants. So I want to start a restaurant. I don't know if I need a 20 seats restaurant or 100 seats, right? So you can see the makeup, 41% of all the restaurants in the community offers about 41 to 80 seats. So he said, okay, that's very popular. So I may want to go with probably 21 to 40 seats. Maybe that area is not saturated. Maybe go over 100 seats. Maybe I'll get better luck. Okay? So when it comes to market research, one key aspect that's quite important, and I'll tell you a little story about one of my clients down south that I work with, and they came to me and they said, I don't know how to price. Am I pricing right? So that's one of the major things that clients have. It's their pricing model, their pricing strategies. There are multiple pricing strategies, but I want to focus on 3 areas. It's a competitive-based pricing where you look at your competitors and you see how much you price, and then you price accordingly. There's cost-based pricing, which is where you look at all your activities, and I'm going to show you next slide that talks about cost-based pricing. Customer-based pricing is the pricing for the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur doesn't really care about competitive pricing or cost-based pricing. They care about the value they present to their customers. So customer-based pricing is really about value. So if I want to start a new art place, and I'm an artist, right? And I want to sell art. Arts is a very subjective thing, and it's based on the value of the end user, the buyer. So that would be your customer-based pricing. Now, before I jump to cost-based pricing, let me tell you what story this graph tells you here. So I want to sell sneakers, and I want to know exactly if I want to design these new sneakers, and I want to know how my competitors are selling the sneakers for. So I intend to sell the sneakers for $120, and I go on eBay, I can see that the same style of sneakers are being sold for $105, $110, $115 at different places, Amazon, Walmart. So these are my competitors there, and I can see that their prices vary. The other thing I really want to do, I want to see how many products that fall within that category of the sneakers I want to sell. How many of these products are cheaper, equal price, and more expensive? So that's what the top tells you. It tells you about 310 products are cheaper, 854 products are equal price, and 388 products are more expensive. In addition to that, the end result of the analysis needs to be how well do you range between your competitors and your product. So it says that your product is 29% more expensive than your competitors. Your excuse. So we talk about cost-based pricing, and this is exactly for your food, your food manufacturing, your restaurants. You need to understand exactly as you building your pricing, what are the factors that come into play, right? So you have your fixed costs, direct labor, so hands that really prepare the food versus the person that's serving the food up front. So you have your variable costs, so materials that you buy to really make the food, right? You have your service cost structure, so these are the people that are serving the food up front, that are receiving the people. You have your product line costing, right? So these are your overhead and all the products that ensues. Your customer cost structure is really how much it takes to acquire a customer and how you break that down into variable and fixed costs. The last and final piece, really, it's about competitive market analysis. This really learns, what it does really, it's simple. It tells you how you understand how much of the market share do you intend to own or do you own currently. It tells you a little bit about your strengths and weaknesses and those of your customers. It also provides you a window of opportunity to enter the market. Let me give you a good example. So you build a product, company X builds a product, a workout machine, and they get sued because when you pull the lever, whatever the thing, and it fails, it breaks somebody's arm. So they're being litigated in court. So you, as a manufacturer of sports product, this is your perfect timing and entry to market. So that's why you got to stay abreast of the news to understand exactly what's happening to your competitors, what's happening in the industry. Uber and Lyft is a very great example, as Uber is being litigated in court for their practices of treatment for contractors versus employees. Lyft is taking a different approach, structuring their contracts and their employees' compensation. You need to also understand in your competitive market analysis any barriers that may hinder you. Maybe you don't have contact, you don't have the expertise, you don't have the historical background to break into that market. So if people want to take pictures, these are some resources that I've used in the past, and I'm a data hog, so I use a lot of this data. This tells you pretty much everything. You want to know how to pay someone? The data is here. You want to know whether or not you're paying fairly compared to your competitors? The data is here. So pretty much everything you need to know about your business is here. So you've generated ideas, you've performed your self-evaluation, you built the framework for your business plan, and then you're like, Welby, I got all that, I'm ready. What is it you're not thinking about? One of the things that leads businesses to fail is their business entity structure. It has implications beyond measure. It can break a business, it can make a business. So you want to start a business, you want to start a partnership, you want to start an S Corp, C Corp. All that has implication. And you need to think about it ahead of time because it does have funding implication. So the way you start your business, you need to understand the structure that you need to place yourself. It's not just about taxes. So really, when you want to choose the proper business entity structure for you, there are quite a lot of factors that you need to consider. The size of your business and operations, the type of your business, how you want to be taxed, right? How you want to share profit, whether you want to pay yourself and have a distribution through a K-1, the degree of ownership and accountability that you want to bring to your partners and yourself, the separation, the legal liability, right? And the funding options as we talk about. So this is another slide. If people want to take pictures afterward, they can. This tells you everything you know in terms of comparing the different business entity structures. So there are considerations that you need to factor in. So the first one is ownership structure, taxation rules, your cut of the profit, how you want to distribute money, accountability and legal protection, and sources of capital. So if you want to be a sole proprietorship, where this is the easiest form of business entity. So you want to just start operating as a business, and then at the end of the year, you file your taxes with a Schedule C, and then you're done. So usually these people have total ownership. They usually exposed when it comes to liability, but their earnings and losses are reported, like I said, on their personal tax return, and all the money goes to the owner, right? The partnership, on the other hand, is a little bit different. So you can be, so if you form a partnership, so you're trying to work with one or more, two or more people in the business. So you need to understand when it comes to taxation rule, there are requirements. So that's one of the aspects that you really need to focus on. So each owner will report their share of the profit on their personal tax returns. But on the other hand, you also need to file what they call a 1065, which is an information return. So you need to account for that in terms of costs and in accounting fee and so forth, right? So when you cut the profit, you can share, you can decide to have an agreement where you share the profits equally or different ways. And then when it comes to liability, usually partners they equally share all the costs, debts, and that's why you need to structure properly. There's a lot of legal structuring. I recommend people who choose partnership to sit with a lawyer to work through all that, because it has major implications. And you can be an LLC and a partnership as well, so you're going to see that. So you can have an LLC and a partnership. A C Corp, the C Corp is the most complicated business entity. A C Corp would be your Microsoft, Google, Apple, and so forth. The C Corp can support multiple owners, right? And one of the advantages of C Corp, it allows you to have foreign investors. So if you want to have a business where you want to allow people from Saint-Domingue and the Dominican Republic, Haiti, to invest in your business, a C Corp will support that, unlike an S Corp, which is a little bit different. So the C Corp, as a taxation, is a double taxation entity, meaning that you pay taxes at the C Corp level, and then you also pay taxes at the personal level as you receive the profit or proceed from the companies. The C Corp can pay, they can decide to pay salaries to shareholders. They can pay them through dividends as well as the sale of the shares. The advantages of a C Corp, they are treated as a legal entity, so you are covered when it comes to a liability standpoint. And the greatest advantage of a C Corp is, as I mentioned, is the access to capital. So you can have multiple investors. You can issue shares and stocks to investors all across the world. The S Corp shares similar attributes with the C Corp when it comes to ownership structure, but the ways different really is when it comes to taxation. So an S Corp will issue a K1 through the distribution of proceeds to the shareholders, and then you'll file that through your taxes and get taxed. K1s usually are taxed a little bit lower than in your salaries and your W-2s. But there's a test when it comes to the accounting concept where they really, as an owner, if you have an S Corp, you need to balance your salary and a K1 distribution to ensure that you don't trigger audits. So when it comes to accountability, you will enjoy the separation, the legal coverage, the legal liability coverage. And the LLC is really a lot of sole proprietorship, a lot of owners, they have an LLC. It's a state designation, and it protects you against liability and so forth. And it can be treated as a corporation where you pass through, you have your distribution to a K1 and so forth. So you can choose to be taxed differently. So it provides you a little bit of flexibility when it comes to that. All right? And one of the benefits is that it also is it's treated as a separate legal entity, so which provides you the coverage. All right. So you understand your entity. You've created the ideas. you've generated you've had a lot of sessions, and you have a business plan, you've thought through, you talk to your accountant or your lawyer, and they have a business entity structure for you ready. So there are a couple of things that you probably need to know starting a business. There are some requirements when it comes to registration, whether you need to register with federal agencies. If you have patents, trademarks, it's best that you register with federal agencies to really protect your patents and your copyrights and your intellectual properties. Usually the states that you operate in determines exactly what type of forms and obligations that you have in terms of filing. So if you're in the state of Florida and you have a presence, you may have to register. If you want to have a brick and mortar space and you want to be sure that you have all your paperwork in place. For restaurants, for instance, you got to file your occupancy permit and so forth. So there's a lot of implications when it comes to registering with the states. I think when it comes to businesses, Haitian businesses, one of the areas I think a lot of them fail is really the technicality. Applying for all the necessary licenses. A lot of our restaurants are failing just because they're not conforming to the norms and the state regulations. Permits, I'll take $200. Somebody's losing their business for that. Sealing. They want you to have this type of sealing. It'll cost you $300 to get it done, but they don't want to get it done, and they lose thousands and thousands of dollars in return. So that's sad. All right, so let's recap. We've ideated, we evaluated ourselves, we created our business plan, we've done the research, we've created our entity, we have our entity structure, we register with the state. So what else do we need to do? Well, seek funding. The reason why I talk about the business entity structure before the funding is because as you structure yourself, you may decide to structure in a way where you have investors to help you fund the business. So now you have your investors, funding is not adequate, you need additional funding. Well, this is what you do. First thing you need first is really have on a one sheet, just one sheet. You don't need all the extravagant stuff. Usually your business plan would have told you a lot of this already, but if you don't have a business plan, just one sheet. You need to separate, you have an Excel spreadsheet, you separate in two. You have your one-time expenses. So these are the things that I need for first time I start my business. And your monthly expenses. These are the things I'll require to operate my business. So your operating costs versus your one-time startup costs. Right? So this is Joe's Pizza. For Joe's Pizza, they need rent to cover rent initially, the deposit for rent, right? And that may range in thousands. They need improvement costs to ensure that they remodel the restaurants and the kitchen. They need inventory, food on staff, and beverages and so forth. They need to apply for all the licenses and permits. And when it comes to their monthly expenses, they also want to cover rent, employee payroll. Like I have a friend of mine who opens a Central Care in New York, and they require him to have 1 year worth of employee salaries and his own to ensure that he doesn't fail. 1 year worth. So think about these as you ask for funding. Now let's talk about the different types of funding that exist out there. So a lot of business starts with cash. I save some money, and I'm going to start a business. Cash. That's fine. There's also the concept of tapping into your retirement fund. I don't recommend this, but people do it, and they take a gamble. I have a friend of mine who I work with, and she started a Hand in Stone franchise. She cashed out all her retirement funds, and her husband's, they pay the franchise fee in the $200,000. Now today, she lives in D-Land. She has 3 places. So she took a gamble, she became successful. So it works. But sometimes it doesn't work. You can also tap into your investment account. So if you have stocks, investment, you can tap into that. You can also really apply for personal credit or take equity on your home. I do not recommend that, but people do it as well. In addition to the personal way of funding your business, there are some business funding out there that you can seek, right? There is a concept called rollovers for business startups. This is where you take your retirement account, right? If you have a retirement account with over $50,000, I don't know if Orange County will qualify for that because their retirement account is locked in. You cannot use that. Yeah. So, but if you have a 401k, for instance, with over $50,000 or more in the account, you may use that as a collateral to start your business, to fund your business startup, right? So you use it as a collateral. And usually this is great for people with that retirement account. If you are a passive investor, however, you're not going to be active in the business, you usually will not qualify for this. So you have to be an active investor, active owner in the business to qualify for this. There's also the Sba Small Loans. These are traditional loans. You can get up to $5 million in financing, and these are usually well qualified, fit for well-qualified buyers, people with good credit who have a history in business, and they also have a very solid business plan and a healthy down payment as well. So these loans really, I wouldn't say they are hard to get, but there's a lot of paperwork. But they are really bad for people who cannot really prove that they have been successful in businesses, or people who do not have a very steady cash flow or proven record in terms of business ideation or business ideas. So this usually would be great for people who've had proven business records. Okay, so I need to emphasize that. I mean, you can get qualified for new businesses, but you need to be able to have all the paperwork in place to qualify. Unsecured loan, you can go to a bank and get about 125,000 in unsecured small business funding. This is usually very helpful for people who don't want limits on how they want to use the fund to grow the business. So the only bad thing is for people who do not have a steady cash flow to repay the loan, after a year, usually these loans can increase up to 13% or more. So you need to ensure you have the cash flow that would help you repay that loan. And a portfolio loan is also for people with a very large investment account. So if you have an investment account, stocks and bonds and hedge funds, you're a hedge fund manager with a lot of money, you can use your investment account as a collateral as long as you have at least $85,000 in your security portfolio. So this is usually bad for people without large investment accounts, so you would not qualify for that. So how do we ensure we get that money, right? We know we sit down with our lenders and then they talk to us about all these different funding. And this is not all the funding. I mean, we could talk about funding, that's a different class. And when it comes to funding, there's like a lot of lending, a lot of loans out there. So what do you need? What do you require? You need to ensure you have a business financial statement. So work with your accountant, have very detailed financials, your cash flow, profit and loss, and so forth. You need a business tax return. If it's your first year of operation, you may present your personal tax returns. In addition to that, if you had done personal financial statements, you can use that as well. But one great thing is the business plan with the budget and the projection, the financial projection. That's a guarantee to really help you move through the process. Another thing people don't understand is that you may negotiate your repayment plan with the lender based on, how flexible the lender is, such as the term, the line of credit, the loan term, and so forth. So things that you need to talk through when you talk to your lender. So a couple of tips. I usually, when it comes to being well-dressed, they say in French that l'habit ne fait pas le moine, right? The monk, it's not the robe that makes a monk. But unfortunately, in the lending world, people do receive you the way you dress. So if you dress a certain way, it kind of does not reflect positively on you as a very successful person. So make sure you put your best suit on and dress like Duvet Financial, very sharp, very strong. Or myself.
What about me?
And you, of course. Avoid the impression of being very optimistic. So when you sit down at the lending table, don't blab too much, because as you're blabbing, you're talking, you're giving them cues that they don't even need to hear and know about, right? Stay composed. And as a business, when you're seeking a loan, you need to ensure that the lender understanding exactly how you're going to spend that money to grow the business. So focus on that area. Whew. Okay. You got the funding, you had the ideas, you got the business plan, you're done, right? You've been in operation. It's been a year. Congrats. You call me and say, hey man, things work. I'm making money. Are you? Let's find out. So, when it comes to measuring success, and I kind of have these here so you can, it helps me talk about this a lot. So, in my world, with some of the financial data analytics project I do, there's something we call KPI. KPI stands for, anybody knows what KPI stands for? Key performance indicators. And these are metrics that you use to measure the performance of your business. So one of the first key component that you need to measure is revenue per employee. Why is that important? As you grow, there's a ratio that you use to identify revenue per employee, which allows you to really see, do you need more employees to really grow the business? So if you see that your ratio is really good and promising, and you think you can do more by having more employees, and there's a demand, so that ratio will really ensure that you can answer that question whether you need to hire more or scale down. Revenue growth rates. So these will identify trends and changes over time. So as you go through the business, you can see your revenue. Is your revenue steady? Is it on the incline or the decline? Repeat business. A lot of people don't know this, right? So I work with a lot of restaurants in my personal business, not the consultancy. So when you use a point of sale system, it tells you way more than just processing payments. The modern point of sale system tells you a lot about your customers than you can even imagine. So one of the things I do with clients is really studying their repeat businesses. So you can do analysis by specific customers to see how often do they come back, right? Because you have that data. And this indication really helps you understand whether or not your product or services that you're serving is really interesting, is really keeping your customers engaged. Value. These work hand in hand, right? So value really is whatever you're selling, is there value to it? And the way you can measure value as well is by relying on your repeat customers to know that there is value in the product that I'm selling because my customers always come back. Values also indicates whether or not the people that are running the company, like for instance, the example I gave you about the restaurant I went to, when I told the owner that, hey, your restaurant is, your employees are not serving me right. And he said, well, what do you want me to do? I've told him. That's value. Profitability. This probably is the most important metric. I said the most. I'm putting a lot of emphasis. An entrepreneur doesn't care about revenue very much. An entrepreneur cares about profitability. How profitable your business is after all your expenses, operating expenses, costs, and so forth. Revenue is a false indicator. Yes, it's good that you on an incline, you're going up, but really how well you're keeping with the bottom line. Client satisfaction goes hand in hand with values and repeat businesses, right? And those you can do monthly surveys to your clients. Do you like the food? Do you like the services? How well can we do? What can we do for you? Month over month performance or year over year performance metrics. Those are key in the large enterprises. They look at that. It tells you a lot of things about your business. It tells you about seasonality. So if you have a small restaurant, you know that in August, you don't sell very much. If you look at your month over month ratio, you'll be able to tell exactly whether or not the month of August is profitable. Do you need to scale down the number of employees you have serving at the restaurant? Or do you need to increase, right? So that tells you a lot more than you think. Rate of attrition. At the chamber, we started tracking the rate of attrition for our members. It's important to also understand how many customers you're losing. If you don't see a customer coming back, you need to understand why and how many of them do not come back. Especially if you sell a product where they come back very often, like a restaurant, right? Content marketing ROI. You're going to find a lot of marketers and marketing professionals who come to you and say, hey, you need to do marketing. Some of them are really great, like JP. He really puts your business at the forefront of the marketing road, and like Ludwina as well. So, but as you work with your marketing experts, one of the things you need to be able to measure is the return on investment of that campaign. Running for over a year, and then you don't have any customers, or the customers you have, they don't bring you much business. You need to be able to understand that ratio and then find out whether or not your marketing campaigns are really working for you. And the last one is cost per acquisition. And that one is, usually we spend a lot of time chasing customers and money chasing customers. We need to know what is the true cost of a new customer. Case in point, AT&T, I read an article probably a couple of years ago, and Rose reminded me of that today. AT&T canceled a lot of customers' contracts, not because they were not paying, because they cost them too much money to support them. There's such concept that there's a bad customer. A customer is a bad customer. It's not making you profitable. So you need to be able to really, and what I've done in the business world is really showing profit by customers. So you can see your profitable customers and the ones that are not. So you need to be able to use that to cut those people that are not profitable. So this is an example of a dashboard. So this is the reason why you don't just want to work with an accountant. An accountant will provide you financial statements, your regular business statements, but a person that understands business, that have all the key concept of business, will provide you much more. So when I talk about business analytics, a lot of businesses think, well, I can't afford this. I'm a small business. I don't want to pay for this. This is too much. Well, what you don't understand, every business needs to have a dashboard that allows them to, at a glance, you need to be able, and these can be supported by systems too, the system you acquire. So you need to be able to say at a glance, revenue, you can see here, I can see my revenue, I can see my previous period revenue, I can see the increase in changes, right, the trend. I can see new customers, how much new activity I have from new customers. I can see my gross profit, the most important metric. I can see my customer satisfaction from my surveys. I can see my sales breakdown by areas and location. I can see my sales by product. I sell du riz, I sell maïs, I sell bouillon. You need to be able to quickly see here, bouillon vend plus que maïs. For those who don't speak Creole, bouillon is, what is bouillon in English? It's a soup, right? Stew. So Haitians love stew. And some people love du riz. Du riz is rice, right? You need to be able to segregate and see performance by these products you're selling. Your point of sale system does have that capability. It's not just pretty. This is the reason why you pay all these monthly fees by month. And then you need to see the customers. This is, brand, your branding, and the different things that you sell, right? How well you are. So that will come from your marketing and advertising campaigns. So you can see we have sales comparison year over year, right? Compare this year and last year, and sales by month. So every business owner, every serious business owner and entrepreneur needs to have a serious dashboard. It's no longer the age of accounting. It's no longer the age of just businesses, bookkeeping. It's the age of information, of business data. A small business no longer have the means or the luxury to spend money and only find out in 6 months or a year. You don't want to spend it today, you will spend it later. You need to arm yourself with intelligence, insight, and the know-how to be successful. Thank you.